So what you say was? Welcome to the moo. Stewest of the stew. How about you? What do you do? Do. Here we are. Hello. Hello, folks. Welcome to episode 3 of the Moo Stew podcast. Today, or this evening, we're talking to Kirsty Cully. The purpose of this podcast, we said a couple of times, is not to talk about people you would know, so it's to talk about people who are normal, with no offence. But it's people you wouldn't otherwise have heard of if we didn't have a platform to talk about things. And then the whole purpose of it is to talk about things that are not just inspiring, but just very relatable. So, you know, everything from anxiety and depression to suicide or whatever, to moments of change, all of that sort of stuff that we all go through, but not everybody hears about. Cool. So with that said, we're talking to Kirsty today, and Kirsty's been a member of the gym for the last year, just over a year. Good timing. She had a very transformative year, and a quick reminder that this podcast isn't about the studio, and it's not a promotion for the studio. It's literally about people. So just with that, because we will be talking about the studio, but it's not about that. Hello, friend.
Hi.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background, please?
Background. Jesus, I think if I was to ask anybody else about myself, they'd say that, you know, I travel a lot and I'm into my fitness. So I think if I was to say my background was like that, I think when I was just 21, I left the country, went travelling, did a bit of fitness, then came back home. But when I came back home, the fitness thing just took over my life, probably. Okay. In a good way. But yeah, I don't know, I kind of throw myself into random situations every so often, you know. It's like I love making a decision that makes like 80% of people around me go, what the hell? Okay. So I've moved countries, I've worked in loads of different industries, I've just done so many things, and I love keeping it spontaneous, really. Cool. Yeah.
What spurred that? So you said age 21, but it would strike me that you would have been like that from younger.
Yeah, so I was very independent, probably from the age of, I was 16, just turning 17 when I finished my leaving cert, and my family were living out in Avon, and I really didn't like living out in Avon, so I moved back to Dublin, lived with a cousin of mine, and so I moved out of home effectively when I just about turned 17, so pretty independent from a young age. Okay. Trying to figure stuff out, you know, couldn't even use an oven.
Yes, the good old days.
Yeah, it's like crackers and cheese and microwave meals.
What didn't you like? Yeah, I remember. What didn't you like about Navan? What made you want to come back to Dublin?
Well, what happened was I moved out there when I was 10. And I don't know whether it was to do with like all my friends that I'd made. I'm originally from Drimnagh, grew up in Drimnagh, went to school in Drimnagh. So everything I knew from day 1 to 10 years of age was there. My mum and dad let me stay in the school in Drimnagh because my dad still worked in Ballyfermot, so he was still doing the commute, so it was kind of just like, well, I'm going to Ballyfermot, I can drop you to school. So we made that work. It was very interesting, 5:30 mornings, not getting back till like 6:30 at night. You know, there's no M3, so we had to go to Dunshaughlin, so in the car for like 3 hours a day, and it was nuts. But yeah, when I moved out to Navan, we were one of the first in the estate. There was literally no one, nobody else around. We were one of the first, kind of like, I'd say probably the first Dubliners. Now it's like another extension of Dublin, but we were one of the first to move out there, and there was nothing out there. I remember for my whole summer I was so bored, and yeah, I didn't like it. And then just as the years went on, I stayed in Monroe School, still commuted, and I don't know, I just didn't like being in Navan. Like, it just felt like I was just there to go to sleep and then come back up to Dublin every day. So I just knew when I finished school I was going to come to college and move up to Dublin then. So
cool. So you went to college?
I did briefly. Okay. I went to DIT. I did computing in DIT I only did it for about 3 months. Okay. Funny enough, was good at the one module that was the hardest, programming. Loved it. Okay. Hated everything else about it. Then I was kind of like in that 17 years of age with a fake ID, going out 3 times a week on the student nights, living off 100 quid, don't know how I did it. And like was turning up to college, but like not really participating. At the end of, I think, December, there was a full-time job going in where my dad worked. I used to work in there, like, you know, during the summer and things like that. So I ended up taking full-time working and just leaving college. Yeah. So
similar to myself, I didn't go to college. And yeah, just family business straight in, and then 10 years disappeared, and you're like, oh, so
my
easy.
brothers and everything worked like with my dad, like so we all kind of like had a turn. But like that when I was half days in school and stuff, I'd go up, so I knew everybody, and they all knew me from when I was a kid because my dad worked there for like 30 years. So.
Cool. What sort of work was it?
It was carpet sales.
Okay.
Flooring.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was in the office doing telesales and admin.
Cool. Did you learn a lot from it?
I did, yeah. I grew up around, there was a lot of, obviously everyone was a lot older, well, not a lot older, they were just a decent bit older than I was. So yeah, it was like, yeah, it was definitely learned so much because I was there for 4 years, and from the age of 17 to, again, like 21, 22. And just like the girls in the office are all mental, listening to all their life experience. They all got married, had kids while I was still 17, 18. So yeah, it was like, learned a fair whack there. But it was from there then, like the recession hit and we got cut 3 days and money, and it was just crazy. And then that's what kind of led me on to leaving for Australia, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're back in Dublin now, as in your parents are back now?
Walkinstown,
okay.
Yeah, so next door.
Did they move back recently or a long time ago?
I think they moved back 5 years ago. Now, I wasn't living here at the time.
Okay.
I think I was in New Zealand at the time. But yeah, they basically, my mum didn't drive. With my dad commuting every day. My mum was we had a big house out in Navan, so they bought it for a really good price at the time, in the year 2000 I think it was, and big house for the full family. But then all of a sudden we all moved out, all the kids moved out. It was just my mum and dad rattling around this massive house. My dad's up in Dublin all day, my mum's on her own, and then she couldn't get down to see her mum or like sister. She doesn't drive, so it was very isolated. So I think they eventually decided to move back.
Yeah, I think that happened to a lot of people. And it's something that I'm super conscious of now. Of like Anthony, who just recently bought a house, a good friend of mine. He was like, he wasn't willing to get a bigger place outside of Dublin, whatever, because the social circle is the most important. And social is not going out and drinking. Social is like having your friends that you can actually meet up and have the chats with and all that. I think a lot of people, when the Celtic Tiger was in, it was so easy to be like, the size of this house, oh my God. But it was so far away, and then you have a commute, and then you have the whole shebang. Mostly you're just missing people. And I think, it was very easy to fall into that, and just seeing that now, because I bought a place in Clane and I was so far away from people and I was miserable. I effectively just moved back in after a few months with my parents, unofficially, for a long time. But yeah, just like people are so important. Cool. And so at age 21, what spurred you to want to go
to Oz? So at this stage, I had been living up in Ballyfermot for the majority of those 4 years, working in Ballyfermot, and then things changed and I had to move back to Navan periodically. So everything changed. I was cut down to 3 days in work just due to recession. I think I had to take like a 10% salary cut, plus then obviously the commute, the time, the petrol, just everything kind of piled up to the point where I was working and I was literally not coming out with anything at the end of the day. At the end of the week to enjoy myself. I remember me and my friend at the time just bought bottles of Blossom Hill, got drunk before we go out and not buy any drink. Do you know what I mean? It was like being a student, even though I wasn't a student.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Then a friend of mine had gone to Australia. He was there about, I think, 4 or 5 months, and when a few years previous, we had a discussion about like travelling, and I was the one that was like, I'd love to go travelling, and he was like, nah, I couldn't leave my family. But then a few years later, he was the one that went to Australia, and then he rang me and he was like, I was thinking of you, and you need to do this. Like, this is amazing. I'm over here. It's great. La 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 la. So I ended up telling him the story over the phone. He was in Australia. I think he was drunk when he rang me, but he was
standard,
full of the chats and loving life, and was telling me like, look, you need to get out of there. So I was like, look, I can't. I've got a car to pay for, and I'm drowning in.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm drowning in finances, and I'm not making any money. I don't know how the hell I'm going to afford a ticket. Like, so he just basically said, sell your car for cash. Come over here, pay your loan off from here. And I thought he was nuts. I remember we had that conversation in it was March 2011, I think. I'm pretty sure it was, March 2011, and by May I had the car sold.
Nice.
I made I think it was sold it for $6,000, and just used that cash, bought the ticket, and I was like, right, well, this is what we're doing. So with a massive loan to pay off because I bought the car on finance. At 18, the car was I think I probably owed something stupid $16,000 on the car or something.
Okay.
Massive.
Cool. But essentially nothing to lose, I think, right? You're just nothing's working here, so.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to pay it off any quicker where I was, and I wasn't again, getting up in the morning, going to work for what? I was not even getting any enjoyment out of it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, back to a similar time frame, talking about the apartment and moving away and all that, is when I got this place, it was essentially like I had, family business was sold, then bought over by a company that I just hated working for. So I left that, and then I was like, I had a motorbike, I sold that, and rather than going on social welfare stupidly, I just like, I'll live off the bike money, and then that went quickly, and I was like, oh. So essentially starting from zero, but just really passionate about training and stuff like that. And then the opportunity to get this place came up. I was like, yeah. And then it wasn't like I was like risky going into something. It was like, well, the only way is up, because I'm really unhappy at the moment. And sure, and like you said, if you're leaving something where you're working, but there's literally nothing at the end of the week, bar Blossom Hill, what's the point? Yeah, nothing to do. It's cool. And so you've had a couple of jobs and travelled a good bit. Can you tell us a bit more about that and kind of?
Oh God, yeah. Like it's a funny old story, because I mean, when I think back now, like mental. Like I went over to Australia. We landed. We first, took a trip to Thailand, as everyone does. Full moon party. Landed in Sydney. Tried to get work in Sydney. It was a disaster. Lasted 3 weeks in Sydney, and then the friend of mine who had been in Australia, he had been set up in Melbourne, so he was like, look, let's go to Melbourne, definitely get you a job, be grand, don't worry about it, because I think 3 weeks into Sydney and money was going pretty quick, I was starting to panic, and he could see that, so he was like, he didn't want me to completely panic, so we moved to Melbourne, and again went on the job hunt. It was a little bit of a disaster, and then we went to try farming out in some place called Rochester. That was a disaster. Your man was like, illegal anyway, wasn't it? Like, it was like not paying people, and they were getting stuck out there, so we had to get a train back within 2 days.
Nice.
But literally when I got back that weekend, I ended up in hospitality. Literally went into an interview and was like, put my local, the local from Navan, one of my friends worked there, I put them down. I was like waitress, bartender. So I was like, can you carry plates, 2 plates in one arm? I was like, yeah, no problem, yeah, of course, yeah. So that was it, got the job in there. So I did hospo for the whole time in Australia. And then by the end of Australia, just as we were coming to the end of my time in Australia, I was like going home. That was like, I think I was planned to go home in July. So at the end of May, I was just like getting ready to book the flight. And then a friend of mine who had finished in Australia and gone to New Zealand, she just rang me. She's like, you should probably check this place out, it's pretty cool. So everyone was waiting for me to come home in July, and I just was like, just apply for a visa. So I got the New Zealand visa, so I just rang home. I was like, yeah, not coming back for another year. So booked a flight to New Zealand, ended up in Auckland. And then when I got to Auckland, I was like, no more hospitality hours, not doing that again. I actually paid off my entire car loan in the hospitality job in Australia. So it worked out. So I was like, no, I want office 9 to 5, I want to go back to the office. So landed in New Zealand, had an interview with a recruitment agency, and they hired me into the agency. So I ended up working for the agency. The reference checks then grew into team support, then grew into actually like interviewing people. Crazy. Then then I came home for a stint because the visa ended. Came home for about 7 months, and then there was another way of getting another visa to go back. So I went back to New Zealand then 7 months later. Back into recruitment by HR this time. But still not a qualification to my name. And did HR for a while, was in New Zealand for about, I think, two years then at that point. And then the last 6 months, I think, of the second New Zealand stint was a very difficult time. I think that's kind of like where maybe one of the biggest transformations started to happen around that time. I remember I had gotten a job with an agency, and I think it was like 3-4 weeks in, started to find it just wasn't what I wanted. It was very salesy, and I'm not completely salesy, I'm kind of more customer service, let's say, but I wouldn't be like trying to sell people into things that I don't believe in, I find that difficult. So with recruitment, obviously, it's sales, it's targeted, and I think I was just like, I began to hate it, and I think it was the first job I really didn't like. I just felt really, really crap at it. Like, I just really felt like I was turning up and just barely getting it done, and I don't know. At the same time, looking back in hindsight, all my friends that I had for the previous, I guess, year and a half plus the other year before, they'd all gone home or dispersed, and then a relationship at the time started to break down, or went, it just wasn't quite working out. So all of this was going on at the same time, and I think I sat with it for a while to make sure I wasn't I wasn't getting it wrong. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to sit in it for a bit and make sure wasn't just me overreacting or like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I did that for five months, and then eventually I just one day I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. It was actually funny enough. I got a phone call, another drunk phone call from the same friend who talked me into Australia. He was in Ireland.
Guardian angel, it sounds like.
Yeah. He was in Ireland at the time, and just basically said, "Hey, how's things?" I was just thinking about it, and I broke down. Like I literally had a meltdown on the phone. So I was just explaining, I was like, I'm not happy. Like I think I realised I wasn't, but I think saying it out loud, like just made it real. So I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to do something about this now. And I think that was the scariest part, because I was in a relationship with someone, you know, was living with them, and also my visa was based on that. So I knew that, you know, by ending that, obviously wasn't happy with the job, relationship didn't feel like it was going well. I knew that meant a massive upheaval. That meant I had to come home. And it wasn't a choice. Like, it's not like, you know, where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go home now. It was like, oh God, I'm going to be forced to go home. And I didn't know, I was like, oh my God. I just didn't see what was going to be ahead. So I think having the conversation with the person at the time about the relationship was just, one of the most challenging things I think I've ever done. Like, but yeah, it turned out, I think we had the conversation and obviously decided to end the relationship. But literally I was devastated, and I think I had the conversation on a Tuesday. By Wednesday evening, I booked my flight home for Sunday. So like I literally was just like, I need to get out of here. Okay. So yeah, that was massive. Like, you know, like literally the Sunday was when I had the phone call from my friend. Little did I know the following Sunday I was going to be on a plane, just about to land in Ireland. So yeah, it all just kind of spun around very, very quickly.
Interesting. Yeah. I find so much of that relatable. Like, the podcast's not about me, so I won't talk about it, but like, yeah, every single cog there is just so relatable. I think, but at the same time, I think life happens for us, not to us. So when you get realizations like that, you know, where it's a moment where you're like, it's not a choice, it's happening. I was like, fuck, okay, we'll roll with it and whatever. Would you classify that as being the lowest point of your life, as in the hardest, or?
Yeah, I think that was the most challenging thing I've ever had to do, was like initiate the conversation, like with that person. And then it was kind of initiating the conversation where I kind of felt like I knew the answer already, but even hearing the answer was next level. Even though I was nearly like, felt like I'd geared myself up, I was like, I kind of have a feeling this is coming. But when I heard it, it was just like my world just went, what the hell, like, you know. Kind of at the time, you know, I had a job, I had the friends out there. I was probably very naive and thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to probably live here, you know, like live in New Zealand or whatever, you know. I was the travelling person out in New Zealand. Everyone knew I was away, and then all of a sudden I was coming home, you know, and with the story that I was coming with as well, I just didn't, you know, I didn't want to come home with like a sad story, or I didn't want people like, I don't like to be mollycoddled, like I wouldn't, you know, I kind of like to sort things out in my head before I have to talk about them. So I knew by coming home everyone was going to be like, what the hell, and everyone would want to know why I came home, and I was just like, I think I overthought all of that even before I initiated the conversation. So I kind of like, I put myself through it twice, you know. You know, they say when you worry about something, you're putting yourself through it twice. So, but yeah, it's, you know, again, it turned out to be such a good push, you know, in the right direction. Yeah. So.
Well, that's the weird thing, is like when somebody says like, oh, I've just broken up with my boyfriend or my girlfriend or whatever it may be, I always feel like a bollocks, but I'm like, because again, based off experience, I'm like, it absolutely sucks now, but I guarantee it'll be the best thing that happened to you, especially if you make it that way. You can't just sit there and like, you know, and you can let it suck for a while. But in any experience I've had, like, and even listen to different people on podcasts about, like, you know, finding out they have an illness that's possibly terminal, the whole shebang, it spurs people onto great things. Just realising that life, like, your time here is finite, and, you know, there's only, just it puts a bit of focus into, if you want to do stuff, now's the time, and a nice moment of realisation, I think, is important. So that's when you came back to Ireland, and you've been back ever since, or did you travel again since, as in travel to go to live?
No, I think when I came back at that stage like that, I felt like my world had just upended, like effectively been put in the washing machine, and I fell out. Didn't know where I was, what I was doing. And that's where I kind of started to, I think, be way more, like I started to look more into like the likes of mindfulness and all that type of thing, but kind of really started to look into, I was very sad, let's just say, very upset, you know, for maybe 2-3 weeks, and I kept going over things like, obviously you go over everything, you know, what did I do wrong, or what was wrong with me, or, you know, you always look at yourself first. And then, I don't know, like literally as I landed on the plane, as I landed in Dublin Airport, I had texted a recruitment agent that I had worked with before in Ireland. She got me a job. When I was home the 7 months previous, she got me a job. So I had emailed her before I got on the flight, and by the time I got off, I had a missed call from her. So I rang her, and I literally had a job waiting for me. Like I literally was in work within the week.
Nice.
So everyone was like, "You're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this." And I'm just like, "No. I need to keep my head busy, you know." So went straight into work, and like that, got my gym set up, got my membership, you know, just tried to get back into a routine that was similar. And yeah, I think over those weeks, yeah, I was very sad. Again, going over everything, and then having to, obviously everybody wanted to meet up and have a catch up and chat and find out what happened. And yeah, I was just like, oh. So, but I think, yeah, between that November and December, I really had to look at what I wanted to do, because it was like you mentioned a little bit earlier, it's like, it's so good when you realise you're at ground zero, because then things can only be up, although you don't realise that as a full picture, but you know, obviously in hindsight. So I was like, right, okay, it was kind of just like, right, stop being sad, what would make you happy? Like that was me asking me that question. So like, what do you want to do? And I remember like, it was just, the first random thing was like, I remember being in New Zealand, and I spoke to somebody when I was working in Auckland Council about doing Kilimanjaro, and they're like, "You are nuts." I was like, "But it'd be so cool, like really, really cool, like oxygen tanks, da 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 da." I had not done much research, but I was like, "It'd be really, really deadly." I remember thinking like the flights from New Zealand were crazy money, and I was like, "Oh, maybe like when I'm home in Ireland, I could do it." Anyway, so I think it was like a Facebook thing popped up about Kilimanjaro, and I was like, I said I wanted to do that before. Yeah. I'm going to do it.
Cool.
I was like, that was it. There's no reason why I can't do it. So this actually brings a funny spin to this podcast, because Jam, who owns that company now, is a member here. So very interesting. Well, Earthside had a talk on Kilimanjaro in town in the February, and I was just like, I'm going to go to it. And everyone looked at me sideways, like as if I had 20 heads when I said, I was like, I'm going to find out about Kilimanjaro. They're like, okay, all right, grand. They probably thought like I was having a nervous breakdown, I think. You know, they're like, okay, well, she's upset, and let her go do her thing, and, you know, she'll probably talk herself out of it. Went to the talk, and I came out with great outdoors, like, buzzing. I came home to my mum and dad, and I was like for about an hour. I was like, I just want to put the deposit down, and my mom's like, just do it, you know, just put the money down and that's it, you're doing it. And my dad's like, just sleep on it, just have a sleep, just have a snooze, it's still gonna be there tomorrow. So I took my dad's advice in that case. I had to sleep on it, literally booked it the first thing the next morning. It was a bit done. So I ended up doing Kilimanjaro, like I ended up getting into hiking, and I think that was massive, that was a huge change, because I was obviously in the gym. Been going to the gym on and off for 7 years, lifting weights. I kind of found that I was quite strong, really good in a strength sense. Yeah, I felt like I could lift heavy for my size. So I had been in the gym. Weight loss was a massive thing for me, and again, in hindsight, it was probably a self-esteem issue with regards to the relationship. And
so the fitnessy stuff came afterwards?
More or less. It kind of was dabbled in and out while I was travelling, obviously, you know, because while you're travelling, you're kind of drinking more than anything else. So I kind of had the gym membership and turned up maybe once, twice a week, sometimes 3 times, and then wouldn't go back for like weeks. So it all depended. But when I got back to Ireland, that's when I took up the gym. But then I also, the advice was for Kilimanjaro was to hike. You know, people go extra, but like just do the thing you're going to do. So I started joining these random hiking groups on Facebook, like just random. And it was amazing, like getting out for 8 hours a day with a group of strangers, like, but listening to people's stories, you know, and like that you were someone completely different. They knew nothing about you, and you know, again, it brought me away from people asking me about the relationship and New Zealand, and you know, it was just fresh air, like literally fresh air. And I just fell in love with the hiking, and I just felt like it just gave me so much time to think about what makes me happy, as cliche as that sounds, but it is like, it's, you know, it's what's not making you happy, do less. What's making you happy, do more.
Simple.
So yeah, so then I ended up doing Kilimanjaro, and then like got like such a buzz off that, ended up booking another big hiking trip. So yeah, so I was working in the office at that point, so yeah, working in the medical industry, and kind of like realised that, I think after booking the second trip, booked a massive, another 3-week trip away to Peru, but I kind of figured that it was a little bit of a realisation that like I was working 48 weeks of the year just to get away for 4, and it kind of didn't make much sense. It's like you're nearly sacrificing, you know, not unhappiness, but like you're spending so much time not in your element for just 4 weeks in your element out of a year. Do you know what I mean?
Hold that thought for 1 sec. I'll just change this around. Yoink. And we are back. So you're talking about kind of sacrificing or working so many hours in a week just to have a certain amount free. But there's loads of things you touched on there. Continue. Say what you were going to say. Actually, we'll talk a bit more about.
No, you go with what you're thinking.
One of the moments I love how you said it and all that. I didn't realise we had as much in common, and I know the podcast is about things that are relatable and things we have in common, but like we've very similar experiences. I remember being that type of sad between not knowing what I wanted to do in my life and just coming out of a relationship and nearly killing myself off from motorbike and whatever. I think I googled either the word happy or happiness. And I was just like, that was the first step where I was just like, I'm actually looking to be happy. I don't think I consciously even acknowledged that that's what I wanted to be. And I found the Dalai Lama's book, The Art of Happiness, read that, and it was just like game changer, like absolute game changer. But just that conscious step of like, I'm not happy. I want to be happy. So I'll stop doing shit that makes me unhappy and I'll start doing shit. And even something, I think it was from that book, but even every time I walk past somebody to this day, it's just like, even if I'm looking at them or not looking at them, I just go, gentle smile and nothing creepy. Just in my own body, I'm just like tiny bit of happiness just emitting every single moment of every single day. Simplest shit in the world. And I think, it's one of those things where I don't even know if people do that. It's like, am I actually happy? Could I be happy? What's making me unhappy?
It's too simple.
It's
too simple. Like, it's so obvious that we go around it because we're like, nah, it just can't be that like straightforward. But it's realising that it can be that straightforward. It's just that we make it too complex. Do you know what I mean? We make it more complex for ourselves. And I think, again, in hindsight, you know, there's so much noise. Like, there is so much noise in daily life that you don't get it. Like, you need to take time out, like by yourself or whatever works for you, but you need to be able to like have a good think. Like, you need to sit in not quietness, whatever, I don't know, like your own space, and just ask yourself the hard questions and be honest with yourself. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I think we're just so surrounded by, you know, we get influenced by our environment so much, and there's so much in our environment now. You know, I think that's maybe where the hiking really pulled me out of that sad phase, because I got to just walk and for like 6 hours a day, and you know, you start to think like, geez, I really enjoy this, like being outdoors, nature, like this makes me feel so much better than getting in a car and rushing around and, you know, shopping, or like, I just don't like any of those things, you know. But like that, I think you just need to get rid of the noise for a minute to kind of figure out what you want, instead of being constantly influenced, because that, you know, it can, obviously, I think your environment can have a huge impact.
I agree. I think
pulling yourself out of that environment so that you can see whether this environment is one that you've chosen or one that you've landed in. Yeah,
I think the reductionist or a via negative, a way of getting rid of things to find out what makes you happy, rather than adding things to make you happy.
Exactly.
And also, just, we talk about this a lot because this is a space. We're not trying to fill all the space. We're trying to create space, so that space leaves room to think, room to not think, room to be, room to maneuver. If you haven't, if you filled up everything, then you've nothing to do, you're stuck in the bubble, you can't actually see what's going on. Yeah. Space is almost like stepping back and going, right, there I am. And then just all of that, just everything. I think anything is possible from there. I think even in this mindfulness kind of lifestyle that people have, or, you know, a place in time where people like meditation is important, mindfulness is important, that's still almost filling space where you're like, I'm going to my mindfulness class. rather than just like, just go away from everything and just have your own space or whatever. And it also brings me back to when we were saying life happens for you, not to you. So when a breakup happens and all that sort of stuff, it's like the big bowling ball in the face is going, oh, something needs to change, you know? One of the, oh, go on, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it's like when you're like, give me a sign, and life is probably literally throwing signs at you, and you're just like, boom, boom, boom. You're just ignoring all of them until like that, like the you know, the snowball, like the small snowball turns into like a massive boulder, and you just get knocked over.
That's it.
That's it. Like if that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
I think that's one of the lovely phrases. I think it was Stefan Vigouroux said it. It was like, life throws ping pong balls, and if you don't listen, you get a bowling ball.
Yeah.
I think that's everything from cholesterol levels to whatever, like looking after your health and all that sort of stuff. You start ignoring stuff, and it builds and it builds and it builds. Toxic relationships, all shebangs. One of the things I wanted to say is I admire about you, and I got, just the more I get to know you and all that, is it's very evident that you've gone from like a family business into random job, HR, built, just off cop on, and the integrity or just the will to just be like, I'll do it, I'm grand, I can step into that role and all that. And that's why I thought, like when I was saying to you this week, is like, you as a person have the capabilities to do anything, I believe, because you're just like, yeah, I can do it, or I'll figure it out on the go, I'll grow wings on the way down. But it shows a million miles away that like the experience you've had from living, and just, and not even necessarily choosing difficult experiences, but just choosing experiences. Yeah. And going into things being like, I'll figure it out. I think it's one of the best life skills. Like, adaptability is what makes us thrive as humans. I think if there's, because you're going into being a coach and all that, I think if there's anything that people could learn from you, it's that. Like, your story is quite interesting. I think it's cool. I think more people should be willing to do that. It doesn't take like, you're not eccentric, or you're not crazy, or, you know, you're quite normal. You're just no, but you know what I mean. Like, there's nothing out there about you. You wouldn't look at you and go, she's mad. You're just like, fair play. She's courage, like, to go and do stuff. So I think it's admirable. Fair play. Cool. Let's go into fitness a bit more. So you had said fitness was a part of your life, but we didn't talk too much about it. Tell us about your fitness journey and kind of where you've gone and what you've done.
It's been so sporadic, let's say. I think I got introduced to the gym like probably when I was about 19. Found out like I did like it from the start, but again, I think from the age of like 19 to 24, it was like that crazy drinking phase between Ireland, like what I said with the bottle of wine situation, living in Navan, you know, didn't have much money, so me and my friend just used to get, you know, pissed on bottles of wine and God, like crazy. But I tried, like, at that time, like, I did try to fit the gym in during the week, and then went nuts on the weekends. And then sometimes I went to, like, I was just one of those people who paid for a membership and probably turned up like 20 times in the year. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'd be on it, and then all of a sudden I'd be off the wagon for like a few weeks. That went. And then when I went to Australia, I had a gym membership again. I tried to fit fitness in, but I was working like nearly, I think, 60 or 70 hours in hospitality, and I was on my feet all day. Okay. So I was kind of like getting the steps in. Naturally, again, that was like quite a bit of drinking involved in that job. So again, like, dipped in and out. New Zealand, I think, is when I got the office job, then I was able to get a gym membership, and I went to classes in the morning. So I think when I got to New Zealand, I didn't really have, I don't like any kind of girl, I guess, you know, going out wearing dresses. I always wanted to be a little bit smaller, you know, I always could have been in better shape. Didn't really notice that in Australia because I worked so much. Like, I worked every weekend, I didn't get weekends off. Like, I think I had 3 Saturdays off the whole year and a half I worked there, because hospo days off were Mondays and Tuesdays, and we went out in our casual clothes. Do you know, like, it was hospo, so I didn't really like go out an awful lot in Australia. And because I was obviously on my feet all day, there was no weight focus, let's say. It was grand. And then when I got to New Zealand, it must have been when I started in the office, I would just eat shit and drink in, and I kind of felt like I'd put on quite a bit of weight very quickly. And I think I started to, I didn't realise at the time, but I really did struggle with it. Having been, again, from everybody over back home, I was like the travelling person, living the life, and I was always very small. Then all of a sudden, like, I had this weight, and I kind of, again, not like I didn't sit in the mirror and go, oh my God, but looking back, it was very subconscious. But yeah, went to the gym, and where I used to lift weights, I stopped lifting weights and got into the cardio thing. Was doing like spinning classes every morning. the girls in work then would do spinning during either lunchtime or after work, I was like joining an extra spin class. I was just spinning my life away. Like that, then I was eating less, you know, obviously they say less calories, da da da. So I was like, it was not, like I hadn't researched it, I didn't look into anything really. I kind of tried all sorts of diets at that time. That was my first year in New Zealand. I was just cardio, less calories, then binging, then drinking, then it was like, when I look back, it was very unhealthy, like it in a health and fitness type of style, it was really unhealthy. And I mean, people will probably still look at my pictures from back in New Zealand and be like, oh, you were fine, you weren't big, but me, I felt very uncomfortable. And then I came home after that year. I think the gym was still in and out. I was going to the gym. When I came home, I didn't do so much cardio for the 7 months. I kind of just did the strength thing. But again, there was no focus. There was no massive, like, I just kind of did that as an outlet, you know, that way, as a hobby, you know. I didn't like sitting in the house, you know. I never really liked sitting and watching telly, so it was kind of just something to get up and go. So kind of like, it was healthier, I guess, when I came out of New Zealand, came home. Then I went back to New Zealand. And then again, picked up the gym again. But I did all sorts of things. I did boxing over there. I did cardio classes. Did kind of like, it was like I loved fitness, and I knew I did. I just couldn't find something to stick to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of that type of person. I'm very spontaneous. I'll jump from thing to thing. Like, we had this, remember we laughed about it when I was like, oh, I'd love to go the Shaolin monks, and you know, like, you're like, oh my god, like I'll think of something next week, like it's something way more different. So I was kind of like that. I was jumping around different things like boxing and gymming and cardio, and just couldn't really find a niche. And of course that was like rolled into the gym. Kind of became my kind of space there, because the relationship at the time in New Zealand and the job and everything that wasn't working out for me, the gym was the only place I was kind of happy.
Okay.
Then moved back from New Zealand, came back home, and then again joined the gym. But it was the 4, 6, 7 months was hiking, obviously for Kilimanjaro in preparation. Did a little bit of gym work. But then what was it? It was obviously it was last year, 2018. Then it was following the Kilimanjaro. So I did Kilimanjaro in September, and then I continued doing my strength stuff. But again, I had no program, I had no coach, I had no guidance. I was turning up to the gym, kind of like randomly doing stuff. But I kind of always focused on legs. Like, let's say I knew I was strong in a squat, I kept doing squats. Avoided upper body stuff because I felt weak.
What was your aim when you were training then? Like, if you didn't know what you were doing or why you were doing it, or why did you think you were doing it?
That's what I mean.
Just an outlet?
It was more of an outlet. I was more so to get out of the house, and I knew I loved being in the gym. Yeah. I loved being or feeling strong, feeling like I could. And then again, everyone looked at me, oh, you're the gym bunny, she's real strong. Okay. But like, I think what I posted on Instagram all over those years, being in New Zealand and everything, was again probably like from an unhealthy standpoint. You know, I'd have like a picture from sideways, you know, strategically.
Do you think your external identity, so how people perceived you, was important to you? Totally. It doesn't seem so much now, though, right? Like, no,
yeah. I think that was an element of it. It was like trying to keep up appearances, because that's what people saw me as. And like from before, when I left from Australia, I was small and I was a gym bunny, and all of a sudden over the course of the years, I guess, you know, drinking and eating shit took its toll, and I kind of didn't, you know, I just didn't want that to be the case. But I did really enjoy just getting strong. I enjoyed feeling strong, you know, but again, I just had no direction and no why, no purpose. I was coming out of the gym like that. Then I think it was something where flexibility came into the picture, and it was something like someone had asked me, can you touch your toes? And I did a forward bend, and I literally got to about here. And you know, it was kind of like, oh my god, like, yeah, I think I'm great because I can squat so much weight, and I'm that strong. I can't bend over and touch my toes. Like, what the hell? Yeah. And then I randomly found on Instagram, one of the gyms that I was in one of the local gyms that I had joined, I seen a PT was like practicing handstands, or did handstands, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, that's pretty cool to do. And then I kind of started to Google stuff on handstands, and then like calisthenic things started coming up, and I was like, would love to be like that. I was really like, oh my god, that'd be so much fun to be able to be strong, but like have fun with it.
Yeah.
It's obviously like people swinging out of bars, doing somersaults, whatever. And there was a PT there that I reached out to and said, hey, if I was looking at going down calisthenics, he kind of looked like he was dabbling around in that area. So I was like, what should I do? And he recommended, as a starting point, yoga.
Okay.
So I started doing yoga, and again, it's like there's nothing more humbling when you can't like hold the position for 5 seconds and you're like sweating, and it was brilliant. It was a really good eye opener, because as much as I couldn't touch my toes, I found out loads more bits where I was like seriously not flexible. Like I couldn't, for a hamstring stretch, I couldn't, like my leg wouldn't even come nearly perpendicular. It was nuts. So that, again, I was doing yoga for a time there, and the flexibility thing, and then I noticed like very quick changes. Like I was improving quite a bit just in the first few weeks of the yoga, and then the handstand thing came up, and I had been recommended this place. So they just mentioned, they were like, oh, if you're into doing handstands, it's a really cool thing on a Saturday, you might want to pop down and have a look. And I was like, oh, okay, never even heard of it before. I was like, it's only 10 minutes down the road. And then I rang you, or emailed you, maybe text you, and came in for a Thursday night class with Fred.
Okay,
that was
so
my
I didn't
first
meet
class.
you.
It was
okay.
the stretching, his lower body stretching class. Yeah, you weren't here that day. I think we were planning, I was meant to come in on the Monday, and something happened with work, I couldn't make it in, so I had to switch to the Thursday. But yeah, it was the Saturday morning straight arm strong that I remember like vividly. And it was such a strange, I think I felt completely out of my comfort zone coming in, although like how welcoming it was, but it was like the space is so different to any gym I'd ever been in. This is not a gym, but obviously I was used to like commercial gyms, going in on my own, whereas this was like I came in and everyone was chit-chatting, and it was very like sociable. And then we had to partner up, and like that, like you had to pick a stranger to work with, and I obviously never did any of that before. And yeah, I think the moment of realization that we've talked about plenty of times was doing some holds on the bar, like L sits or tuck sits or tuck holds. And Francis was the one. I was paired with Francis, and I remember just seeing Francis hold an L sit, and I was just like, what kind of place is this? This is mental.
She's 52, I think. Yeah, would have been 52.
No, I didn't want to mention anything like that.
No,
but just watching Francis, she showed me. She was like, I was struggling to hold it. I remember you had given us a couple of cues walking around the class, giving everybody cues, and Francis was like, so this is what you do. This is how you do it. I was like, oh my god, this is mental. And I think it was that was just like a realization. I was like, okay. So I'd come for handstands, but like before I'd even gotten to the handstand part, I was a little bit like, this place is interesting.
That's what we always giggle about it. I could see the cogs turning. So like from my perspective, when someone comes into trial, it's slightly different now because we have a week with people as a trial. But back like when it's like you're in for one class, so I have to see what the person is going through and kind of read the body language. And just see the cogs turn into you. There was like a resistance there to where you're like, oh my god, this is great, but like weird, different. I love it. That's all I saw was like, I have no idea if this person's going to join, but like I see a boatload of potential, and just
like I can't hide it either. Like I probably visually see the fact that I was out of my comfort zone. I'm like, what is this madness? Endure it, like every uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, I have to be very trusting of what's going on in that class to be like, I can't try and I don't try and sell what we're doing to people. I just have to try and let you know you're in safe hands and just experience it. Like if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't. Grand. And I always want the person to enjoy it. Like unless the person happens to be an arsehole, like being protective of the culture and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just legit. It is what it is. Like.
I think even at the start of the class when I came in, you obviously made the point of welcoming anyone who's brand new and they're coming into class. But I remember saying to it as well, like, this is what something, I guess, as now I'm a coach, like now coming into the coaching arena, and my thing being kind of, I want to, focus on women feeling stronger, because I think that was my initial, that was the one thing I got out of fitness for so long, even though I had no real direction. But I said to you, I have no upper body strength. Like I have none, and you were like, come on, we're just because it was straight Armstrong, and I was like, I remember panicking. I was like, oh no, because I had skipped like upper day for like 7 years. You know, I just constantly focused on legs for so long. That I was like, I knew it was going to be humbling. Let's say I was like, oh God, I've never done any of this before.
Now look at you.
yeah. I know.
I think the thing there is really interesting because everybody always wants to self-diagnose. I have no core. I have no upper body strength. I was like, I think my friend Phil would have told me years ago, was like, if you're not working for something, you can't complain about it.
Yeah.
Like you don't not have it. You're not working for it. You don't know.
Yeah.
You actually don't know. So if you haven't done upper body day, I'm like, okay, I know it's inside you. It's inside all of us. We don't pluck it from somewhere. We bring it out of ourselves.
Yeah.
So come to class. Learn about this and this and that. And sure, if it's something you want to do, anybody can do it. We have it. It's in our DNA. Like it's super duper. Yeah, it is simple. It's just time. I think all these things just take time. Yeah, I just love it. I think it's really, really cool. And obviously you've gone from like a couple of months in getting your first chin up, and now you're doing multiple weighted chin ups and all sorts of stuff like that.
I know.
It's super
and now,
cool.
now upper is more preferable now to legs. Like I don't even, not that I don't enjoy legs, you know, but everything now I do is kind of like, it's all upper based now, you know.
Tell us a bit more about Francis while you're there.
I love Francis. More about Francis. I don't know, I just think, not even just, obviously Francis was my very first inspiration, because she was the person I was partnered with. But I mean, even that Saturday as well, I think what was going through my brain was, I think the majority of people in that class at that stage were probably a good bit older than me, not a good bit older, but like, it's a mix, it's a range, but even at that, like, it was just so crazy to see so many people working together as well, like a big group. I don't know, I didn't do many group classes, and maybe it was the spinning, but by the end of it, I loved what I'd seen. You know, everyone working together, partnered, and then you make people like partner with someone else, so you're not stuck with the same partner. But, so you don't just choose one person. You know, you are pushed out of your comfort zone to go talk to someone else. And not that I'm not introverted by any means, but I would like in a
we all have resistance.
Yeah, I would have been a little bit like, oh God. And then as well as that was like an upper class, which I knew I was crap at, and I was like, oh God, you know, like, but that, I don't know. What I'm learning now as well is that the more I do kind of, sometimes we resist, you know, I think it's just dependent on, it's case by case, but the more I can do kind of push myself out of my comfort zone, the more I'm happy about it afterwards, you know, like, so obviously it feels very uncomfortable, scary, nervous, you know, all that, you know, really unnerving feeling of the whole thing, but I'm starting to kind of enjoy that now, do you know that way? Like, so when I feel like something is a little bit like, oh God, it's nearly like, sit with it.
Yeah.
Sit with it. Chances are it's going to turn out.
I think that's all you've done for the last year since I've known you, is like, scary, let's go. But it's true, and that's where growth is. I mean, you know, it's the balance between, like, it's just like a little bit nervous, it's like, okay, it's probably good stimulus, like, it's going for it. But yeah, I think if we stay in our comfort zones, I mean, it's an overused kind of analogy, but like, it's so simple, it's like, feel the fear, do it anyway, and all that sort of stuff. Cool. Yeah, so it's nice you kind of touched on what I've tried to develop here, which is a culture, which means it's not me that helped you. You didn't even mention me, and I was the coach, and I love that, because you got Francis and whoever the next partner was, and I think Viv and Tara were there at the time. I really do remember that class. But just that, like, stepping back and like, I know you're in good hands with this person, and she's in good, like, everybody's fine.
Yeah.
We have, in principle, we're working on this, off you go, and then I sit back and observe and see that happen, and then the culture takes care of most of it. It's like an ecosystem of progress and happiness and all awesomeness.
But then it's exactly that, probably that kind of made me find my passion for coaching, because you do as you partner up. Obviously, the longer I was here, the more you partner up with brand new people, and then you're showing them how to do things, and then that's where I kind of like, oh, I really enjoy this. This is really cool. You know, like, you know, because you. It's not exactly that you've designed it that way, but it's the way, again, you've set the culture up that, like, we all kind of help each other, and it's really lovely, and it's, but yeah, even above that, what's come from that is now my passion. You know the way now I'm just like, oh, I was like, as it went on, I was like, oh, I really, really, so it's nearly like, it's like the fitness thing was always there, but I just never seen what I wanted from it, or, you know, I knew it was just, I knew I loved it, but I couldn't put my finger on it, and I find that in the last 12 months, I think I wasn't looking for anything. You know, I was looking to do a handstand. Like that was basically my motive for turning up here. And it's so funny, I think, once you take your focus off like the weight loss, which was before I got to here, you know, it was just a lot of like kind of what we probably talk about, materialistic, aesthetic, external kind of things, like driven by environment and probably what other people thought of me, that type of thing. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I want to learn to handstand. And again, that was another one of these decisions I made where everyone was like, you're mental, like what is wrong with you? Do you know? And I was like, well, that makes me want to do it even more because nobody else is doing it. So
hold that thought 1 second.
Yeah.
Yoink. We're doing good. So handstands. Go.
But yeah, so like I think coming here with the idea of coming to, like the idea was to come to a Saturday handstand class, learning to handstand. And yeah, I turned up to that Saturday morning class, the straight arm showing before handstands, and then immediately like the next week became a member and was turning up here like 5 times a week. And then getting like, I never came, like even though we were doing more upper body sessions, the chin up wasn't my goal as such. You had said to me, you'd be able to chin up like in X amount of weeks, and I was just like, he's mental. Yeah, he don't know what you're talking about. I love you.
Fuck you.
Yeah, and then like that, literally on the day you'd predicted it, it happened.
Imagine that, David.
And then like that was kind of like, it was more so, I think all I needed maybe as well for all those years was a coach. I needed someone to direct me. Like I was kind of lost in so many ways. That when you were saying you'll get your chin up or you'll get a full push up, I was like, I never even thought of those things. I came here for handstands. Then I felt like I kind of just joined the classes and they were fun and they were sociable, and I think that was the big bit for me, was the sociable aspect. But yeah, what I was getting out of it was the strength stuff, and kind of just all these things were just coming out without I wasn't even noticing. It's more so when I look back at it, how much I'm like, oh my god, you know, like it's the friendships, yeah. And I think that is a massive thing I've realised, is that when you take, like that, you take your focus off the ridiculous, like not ridiculous, but weight loss, or like you just enjoy it. Like that's I was torn up because I enjoyed, like I was getting up at 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, 5:45 to come here for 6:30, like excited to see Kelly and Francis and everybody, like just to have a chat with them, but what we were working in the hour and progressing from that work, even though it didn't feel like, oh god, I have to go to the gym. Oh no, I have a session booked, or oh god, I'm not. It was never really like that, it was always just like turn up for the fun of it. And yeah, I obviously find that has somehow triggered something in terms of progress, because I just kind of, I'm torn up because I want to be here. I'm relaxed in the environment, I'm enjoying the environment. I think, like, obviously I've looked more into it now with regards to the PT thing, parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous systems, where stress is stress to the body, no matter whether it's physical, emotional or mental. So if you're turning up to the gym, you're like, oh god, that will inhibit progress. It probably will inhibit your ability in the gym session that day. If you have a bad gym session, then it might put you off doing gym tomorrow. Whereas, like, if you're turning up to something and you're like looking forward to it, I feel like it will naturally have such a good effect on you in all the ways, in everything. I think if your mind is open to it and enjoying it, it's going to take so much from it, as opposed to turning up to something stressed. I think you're gonna block what the good things from it.
Yeah, I think it's
probably like a way more technical way of putting that, but
no,
it's my brain is like,
yeah, no, I think it's beautiful. I think it's spot on. I think we are doing our best to have a paradigm shift of what people think fitness is and health is, and the process behind it as well. And so having like the gut feeling to be like, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, where in between sets you don't have to be stretching, you don't have to fill that space, you can keep that as space so you can get to know a Kelly or a Francis or whoever it may be. And then people do look at you like, this isn't hard enough. I'm like, you should be working hard, you should leave feeling like you've done a workout, you shouldn't leave crawling out the door all the time, or a portion of the time, or whatever it may be. And I think people need more of that, because again, stress is stress. The body doesn't realise if there's a tiger in the room, or if you're late for work, or if you're financially struggling, or whatever it may be. Stress is stress. And so everybody should have that space where they can go and just be like, whatever happens, I know I'm safe here and I'll be laughing within 2 minutes. And then because I'm laughing and my body's relaxed, and because my body's relaxed, I can do all these wonderful things And because I'm talking to people, the focus isn't exclusively on myself, because I think that's where we suffer. I think you had talked to me before on camera about that. You're saying a self-centered, but not like, in such a negative way, but like, I'm going to Australia, I'm going to this, I'm doing this, just everything was about you doing something.
What everyone else
not doing.
Of course, my friends were like, don't go, and I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye.
So yeah.
And so when you enter an environment like this, I think you can't be so self-centered about things, because you're interacting and you're focusing on skills where you haven't even got time to be thinking about how your six-pack looks or whatever it may be like that. And so you've essentially in the last year changed careers, or are in transition to changing careers, from being a person who has been so self-centered into now, all jokes aside, into now wanting to help people and essentially spread the message that we've been kind of talking about the last while, I suppose. Can you talk about that transition, when you had that aha moment, you'd be like, the next major thing I'm doing is I'm becoming a PT?
God, yeah. Well, again, like you just touching on what you're creating with the space as well. Again, it's like the hiking thing I said. It's coming here is like cutting out the noise. There's no rat race. There's no kind of you're here. You're doing your program, and you're socializing with people, and I think that's just everything in one. You're exercising your body, you're being sociable with other humans, and you're just feeling good about it. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I love about this. It was like, it's nearly like a form of meditation. You know what I mean? Whatever people want to, however they meditate. I think you don't need to go and meditate as per the textbook, but that's why I find this place to be like, again, another version of like cutting out the noise. But yes, the transition. So the aha moment. God, I had Peru booked, wasn't it? And I had said to you when I started in the June, I was like, no, I'm not going to be here for like all of October.
No.
Yeah. But no, what actually happened there was I had toyed with the idea of doing a personal trainer course even when I was in New Zealand. Just kind of like, again, it was one of those things where I kept saying, I'd like to do that, and then never did it. So it was like many people do, we all do. We were like, that's a really good idea. I really like to do that, but never actually action it. And what had happened was a friend of mine who I had actually been in Kilimanjaro with, I kept in touch with her, and she had rang me. So basically, I think I put a post up on Instagram in like, I think it must have been May or June. I don't know if I had quite got here yet, but it was something to do with, I think I just bought my car, and it was like a really feel good post, and I was like, you just need to do what you want to do. It was one of these really like, be selfish, self-centered, kind of one of these.
Triggered.
And Jen had texted me and said, I love this post, blah blah blah. I really love looking at your stuff. So I was like, okay. Then about a couple of weeks later, she's like, oh my god, we need to have a catch up. So I was like, okay, grand. So I found out that she had left her job. She again was in like not a 9 to 5, but she was working in a hospital, kind of very high pressured, I guess, situation. And we had talked about it in Kilimanjaro, how much we love fitness and how much we love being out in the open and the hiking. And I think by the end of Kilimanjaro, the two of us had nearly talked each other into like quitting our jobs. Like, we're like, oh my god, talk about possibly going into something in fitness. She was very, like, she had a CrossFit background, very different to mine, but we were able to have a chat about it and talk about it, and obviously we bonded over that. And I met her in, I think it was June, and she had handed in a notice and she was finishing up, and she had booked herself into the PT course that I had been looking at for like time with, maybe for over the year. So she was like, I'm going to do it. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So let me know how you get on. So she finished the PT course, she did the 6-week full time, and she absolutely loved it. She loved it. So she was like, you need to do it, you're going to absolutely love it. So that was, I think she finished that at the end of August. I had Peru coming up in October. Obviously I was working full time in the office as well. They had a part-time course available as well. So again, I was like, really, it was like in my mind, I was like, oh my god, like I totally need to do it, but I've got Peru, and the next part-time course was starting in the November. Literally would have been the day I landed back from Peru. The following day would have been, I'd have to go in, like going back to work and also going to college straight after. So I was a little like, oh my god. And I don't know what it was. I think it was after being here. I don't know. It was something with being partnered up here and being able to help people. I was just like, I just need to do it. It was kind of just one of those things where when I thought about my heart race, I was like, I think I need to do it. Like, I think this is something I just need to do. And again, I just throw myself into it. So I booked it on the credit card. I was like, you know what, heck it, let's just do this. We're gonna just, Peru will be a massive blowout, and then college study starts the next day I come back from Peru. So yeah, so then I booked the PT course, went to Peru, came back, and then started in November. And just doing that on top of the office was, found it hard work, but like, I don't know, it was, again, it was being here, I think, that that really showed me what I wanted to do, because, I mean, the course itself was very good, it's probably one of the best ones that is out there at the moment, but it did show me a contrast. So that was like, I think what I learned in the course was very much the stuff that I had been doing in the commercial gyms for years, but I figured that it was what we were doing here that really pushed me into wanting to do what was here, because that was different to what I was doing in the commercial gym. So I think when I was in the commercial gym, I hadn't really dived into being a PT because it wasn't exactly what I didn't, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but what we were doing here was like, this is what I want to do. This is the atmosphere I'd love to create. This is what I want to be in, like 100%. So again, I think it created a nice contrast there. Like, I was looking at it to see what was in commercial gyms and how they were all being, I guess, educated and stuff. But again, it just really, really showed me that what you do here was what I wanted to do. Now, it's not so much, I know we can do #movement, but kind of stripping everything back. Like, the gym here has very little equipment in terms of when you put up against, any of the big commercial gyms. But yet, in 12 months, I made more progress here with minimal equipment than I ever did in all the commercial gyms with all the equipment. So it was kind of just, I loved the fact that it brought us straight back to basics. You don't need crazy barbells, crazy dumbbells. You don't need to be like lifting all this heavy stuff. Your body weight is enough. Or the skills that we learned off that as well. But it was kind of, let's do a push up, let's do a chin up. Let's hang out the rings, and it made it way more fun. And that's the kind of thing. I really, even when I used to do it in the course as well, they'd all be laughing at me. They'd like, here's everyone doing the handstands against the wall. But it's what you do here. That's kind of pushed me into that side of things, because I think it's very, very different, in terms of just the basic movement. Like, I mean, and again, another the mentality here as well is, of course, form is important, but it's also exploring end ranges and the knees over toes situation that you love, being able to kind of explore going outside of those ranges as well. That we're not just always in these linear patterns, that we work outside of those linear patterns, because I mean, that's where the day-to-day comes in. If you want injury prevention, if you're only training in one linear way, like if you roll your ankle, that's not linear, and you're probably gonna break your ankle. Whereas if you train on the outskirts of the side of your ankle, or using your knee in a slightly different range, you strengthen that range. You're coming out of the normal patterns and getting stronger outside of those. So that's what twigged me. I think it was just that it was so different to everything I'd seen before.
Cool. Who do you want to be as a coach now that you're moving towards helping people? So possibly classes, possibly one-to-one. What do you want people to get from you, and what? Yeah.
I think, obviously, I think it's more so finding their why and maybe using fitness as that modality, because I obviously am passionate about fitness, but it's finding your why in everyday life. I think is so important. I think it's, we all face challenges in life, things like that, but I find fitness as a very good metaphor. So, I think you bring someone into the gym, you push them out of their comfort zone. It's exactly like when I turned up here and I was like, I have no upper body strength. And all you had to do was like, okay, you didn't really argue. You're just like, let's see, try this and try this and try that. And then I was like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I can do that. Oh, that's mad. and like that progression of, oh my God, I really can't do this. Like, you know, just having someone there to kind of spot it and be able to just kind of like lightly guide you into realizing that you have potential capability. But again, trying to maybe realize that, you know, that it's more than just weight loss, and more than just what people see in you. That, you know, if your focus is on the right thing. Like, my focus changed from weight loss, let's say, to having fun. I loved coming here to play on the rings, to try handstands, to, you know, tumble around the place. And I find that that's what got me my progress. I think it was a complete mentality change. So I would love, ideally, to work with, probably, I know it's like more so women, because I think, you know, the fact that I chin up or I look strong is like, it's, people are a little bit like, oh my God, female doing a chin up, like it's nearly it's nearly surprising. It's like, no, women are strong, you know what I mean? So I'd love our when I talk to girls now, I think in the gym I walk in, like, oh God, same thing, I've no upper body strength. And I'm nearly like, aha, I remember saying that only 12 months ago, and, you know, they'd look at me going, what? I was like, yeah, no, I said that 12 months ago, like I couldn't do anything. But, you know, again, it's I don't know, I would love to change the mentality, I think, around pulling them away, I don't know, I could say pulling girls away or pulling women away from the idea that they have to have this look, you know, or they have to look a certain way. That just, you know, there's so much fun to be had in being strong, you know, just all these mad ideas. Oh God, I don't want to work over day. I don't want muscles. You know, I don't want to be bulky. And it's like, oh God. Yeah. So just to kind of tear those down and just empower them into like knowing that they can be just as strong as men. You know, but again, that's fitness, but also applying it to outside life. You know, like where you don't think you can do something, you're probably well capable. You just need to push yourself out of it or explore the end ranges as such. You know. Yeah. Finding comfort in discomfort, but yeah,
it's interesting. I
kind of gone around that in houses, I think.
No, not all. It was a tough question. I don't think it's fitness you're talking about, though. It's not strictly fitness. I think it's working with people, because there's a lot of things, like it's strength. It's not just fitness. It's belief. It's not just fitness. It's saying, like, I think you can do this. It's mindset. It's changing how people, you know, perceive things. So actually, it's just dealing with a person, and I think that's what makes. So I always say, like, I mean, it's very easy to paint by numbers. It doesn't make you a coach or a good coach. I think a great coach is an artist, because there's a real art to caring about people, to dealing with people, to wanting to see them progress, and actually saying, like, hey, next week I think you'll get your chin up because you've done X, Y, Z, and the person doesn't know yet. There's an art to that, to have, you know, the experience to say, no, like, trust me on this, I've got it. And you only get that with empathy and with care and with experience and all that sort of stuff. And so I think that's, again, back to this whole paradigm thing, is it's definitely not fitness. It's more than movement, and even being called a movement studio, like, this is the people studio. You know, people doesn't sound as sexy, but if you're not working with people, for people, to help the person, then you're not really a coach, and you're not doing art, you're just painted by numbers. And so I think it's also I think you'll do tremendously well, because the passion is there, and that's what's kind of coming across as well. So I think that
if I was to refine it, I think basically I would love to do for people what you and here have done for me in 12 months, because that's effectively it in a nutshell. Do you know what I mean? In 12 months, it's, you know, I always say this: 7 years weightlifting, 7 years turning up to a gym, not really no direction, but yeah, in 12 months under, you know, I think a brilliant coach, and also in the environment that's created here. That combination was powerful, because I think people probably only get one or the other. You know what I mean? They may get one, but not both together, and I don't know. The combination of both obviously worked for me as a person, but that's what I mean. Like, I know we can talk about chin-ups and handstands, and I can do all these now, but I think, again, using them as a metaphor, the personal growth I've had with regards to the PT thing now, the transformation, like, I probably wouldn't have made, I don't know, I am quite spontaneous, so I can't say I wouldn't have made the decision to move careers, but you know, that's what I feel like, a completely different person in just 12 months. But I feel like, you know, the amount of growth that's happened in just 12 months is probably worth the amount of growth that happened to me in 7, you know. But I think that is all very much to do with the atmosphere here and you as a coach. But like that, again, I'm using fitness as a metaphor. It's, yes, it was getting my chin-ups on. I never even looked at getting chin-ups. You know, finding up the handstand and all these little progress steps the whole way that just, it's like it trained my brain to be like, okay, I can't do this now, but let's have fun with working on it. Okay, I can't do this, you know, failing or bailing or whatever, you know what I mean, but having fun with it, you know, not just like falling over and be like, I can't do this, you know, get up, try it again, let's try something else, let's try something that's even, and then, you know, it just, I think the more fun I had with it, the less I even felt like I was working at it, and it just, it came together, and I got the chin up, I got the handstand, but I think that's things in general, because I mean, again, the PT thing just kind of came together as well. It wasn't something that I was intently like, I'm going to be a PT. I was kind of like, I'm going to do this because it looks interesting and I'm interested, and even if I don't become a PT, this information will help me regardless. So, you know, I didn't put myself into a box, you know, I didn't be like, no, you're going to be a PT after this, but again, it just kind of like, it just organically grew and just all came together, and then within 12 months like that, then, you know, here we are, and I'm due to finish up in the office and go into coaching.
Yeah, I think that's...
It's crazy.
Like, I'm not really afraid to say things, and I never want to come across as arrogant. I really don't, because I'm not. But like, that's what it means to be more than a gym, in my opinion. Obviously, because that's what I do. So when I see other gyms hashtag more than a gym, and just like, you're not. Like, there's so much more you could be doing. There's more depth there. There's way more things, from just the approach, the culture, the space, the conversations, the belief, the whole shebang's. Like there's some tremendous gyms, but of all the ones that just say more than a gym and that's all, no, there's so much more people. No, and it starts with just being like, okay, this is not fitness. It's not fitness, but fitness is not what it is. It's so much more than that, and then fitness is a part of it. And fitness is definitely, like, you know, we'll talk about a lot more things before we actually have to talk about fitness. Anybody can do fitness. Yeah. Anybody can go for a walk, go for a run, go for a climb, go for a hike. Anybody can push, pull, squat, press, hinge. Yeah. There's so much more to helping people and unveiling what's there. And for you, it ended up being like a life-changing thing, I think, or a career-changing thing, at least for the moment. Knowing you, next year will be different.
I know, another 12 months.
But do you know what I mean? I think that's what's important, and it's lovely to feel like that's the impact it's had on you. It's where like, no, this is kind of how I see the world. I have so many people I see that I can be like, I think you'd be great at this and that and all that sort of stuff. Or just giving people the platform to be like, well, if you can do this, what else can you do? So it's super cool.
It's also, I think it's one of the things, I've said this to a couple of people as well. I actually said this to my mum last night as well. That, you know, my mum used to laugh at me years ago when I was a kid. I did everything, you know, like I did karate, and then when I got bought me all the gear, then I'd be like, oh, I'm not into karate anymore. Did like salsa dancing, did that for like 6-8 weeks, then I was like, oh, I don't like this anymore, moved on to something else. And I was constantly jumping, like I'm constantly moving on to the next thing, never really stuck with any, you know, what is the thing, like, master of none, you know, really kind of try loads of things and then never actually stick to anything and achieve anything, one thing in particular. So, you know, I've kind of been like that since I was young, so I guess that's probably where the travelling thing stems from as well, like where I could just kind of jump around different jobs, industries, just kind of like, just...
Do you think you're hyper or unsettled, or what is it about you or just you haven't found what you're looking for, or got your roots, or what is it?
Well, I think now, I can probably say that, I don't know whether I was like kind of looking for something, do you know the way, I'm constantly looking for something, and I probably go more by my gut, even though I would be an overthinker. I'd overthink things, but eventually I think if it feels right, I sit with it, do you know, the kind of way. But this is actually the first first thing I've ever stuck to fully. And I mean, having travelled, like I've said this to you before anyway, like this feels like home. Like being in here feels like I don't need to go anywhere else. And even if I considered going to another country, I'd be like, I miss the studio. Now, like I know I'd miss friends and family. We all kind of like, you know, we miss them, but we know we can FaceTime them and ring them. But I think like I could go away, but there's not going to be another atmosphere like here, you know. And I think that says something itself, because I go travelling all the time, you know what I mean. I could easily just up and go. I kind of have that, you know, I love my family, love my friends, but they all kind of are nearly on edge when I turn around and be like, oh, I've got news. They're like, oh God, she's going somewhere else now. Like, she's gone, we're losing her again. So, you know, just the fact of how this place feels, having done that for so long, and yet I've stuck with this place for a full year, you know.
Yeah.
It's interesting even for me to be like, oh, that's something I've stuck to.
Could be a timing thing as well, as in you've had all the experiences and now it just happens to be where you are.
That's what I mean, but maybe that's why I was kind of looking around having a look for something and I found it, you know.
Cool. So, talking about the industry a little bit more, going into it now, because you're going to be in a position to be your own voice in the world. You know, so it's really up to you to put your money where your mouth is, as in, okay, well, if this is your art now, essentially. As far as I'm concerned, if you're working with people or doing anything, it's your art. And if you choose to be an artist, as in make the hard decisions to be like, okay, well, this may not be the short-term game, which might just be money straight away. It might be taking a step back and doing what you may deem the right thing based off your gut feeling or whatever it may be. How do you want to see the industry in like the next year or so, or 2 years or 3 years? If it needs to change, what does change look like? And before you answer, I'm going to pause this. We are. So yeah, just getting back to that. Going into the industry now, if there's something you would like to change, what is it?
Oh, that's huge question. Again, it's kind of, I think I've talked about, like, you know, there's so many controversial things. But like, obviously, first of all, on Instagram, you know, you've got all these detox teas and juices and oh God, and you know, the idea of, actually I have it currently at work. There's a couple of females that are doing the whole living off 1,100 calories a day, you know, and it's like, oh God, you know, that pains me, because I'm like, I'd love to be able to really, I don't want to be like standing on the things that I want to educate people, but you know, I'd love for people to know that that's not the route to go. And I think I am focused on women here, because I went through the whole, my transformation a little bit was like that. I was at one point, you know, so unhappy with myself that I did the cardio thing. You know, I was trying to turn up the gym and bust everything out, and then try to eat nothing and try to lose weight, and that did not work. That did not work, even though, like, on paper you think, yeah, you know, less calories in, more calories out, we should work. No, it didn't. And then in contrast, where I kind of took the focus off weight, enjoyed myself, and the weight came off, and you know, I got this toned body that probably most, you know, girls come in and like, oh, I just want to look toned. But I would, that's, so what I don't want to see in the industry, I don't know, there is, you know, I think there's way more now, I think, than when I was back then on Instagram looking at the influencers, let's say, and that's where I kind of was getting my information from, with, you know, less calories in, more calories out. I think now we've kind of come around to a point where there is actually quite a lot of, let's say, influencers talking about mindfulness and taking that really on board. So I think a lot's changed since when I was kind of, I guess, unhealthy about it. There's obviously just still a lot of that is still around, unfortunately. But again, it's more than just fitness. You know, it is much more just fitness. I don't want to be a life coach, but I would love just for people to take it all in as like, you know, you've got, without being funny, you've got one body, you've got to live in it your whole life. You have to take care of it as well. You know, you have to fuel it properly, you know, you have to exercise it properly, move it properly, and of course, again, like I said about the amount of noise that we have in our current environments. You know, we talk about like sitting in cars to the point of getting to a job, to sit in a seat all day, you know, to then be so stressed out by the end of the working day, and you go home and you're going to sit in front of the telly, you know, and our bodies weren't made for that. Like, naturally, we weren't made to sit all day, you know. So it's trying to pull people from that, you know, and show them, again, if I was to give them, like, you know, I don't know whether telling my story would help, or, again, you know, it's going to be very interesting when I go into doing this myself, because I'm trying to tie with the idea of maybe doing, like, bringing people out on a hike, just to give them a taste of what it's like to get, you know, people be like, oh God, I couldn't walk for 3 hours in the mountains, you know. But it's funny when you put them in the environment, you know, it's like me telling you I can't do upper body. You put them in the environment and then they're like, oh, you know, a little bit like, oh, this is not gonna, but then, you know, letting them sit in it, and then they're like, oh, actually, this is really nice. You know, so bringing it back to basics again, I think, you know, yeah, just, I don't know. I think for me, it was, again, we talk about the noise, you know, cutting out all the kind of the craziness that goes on around us, and being able to take time out and tune into what we really want to do. I know I'm kind of going around the houses here a little bit. But yeah, again, I'm using, I've probably lost it, I'm probably going to edit that now. Kind of like,
No, that's cool. I think that's get the general point across.
what am I actually trying to say? Ask that question again.
I can't remember which one it was. Starting to think about the next thing.
What do I want to see less in the industry?
Yeah, if you were to change something.
If I was to change something.
So you're essentially, what I feel like you're saying is there's a toxic or a misinformed culture around, first of all, weight loss is the narrative, and I think that's just fucking horrible, because I think that's all people think will define them. I think people think your salary defines you, being happy or sad, and your body composition defines you, being happy or sad. And when people say, oh, you're looking well, or geez, you put on a bit of weight, or how's things, they'll always say, like, job's going well, or whatever it is. It's such a false, like, dichotomy of what's actually important. So people don't ask you, are you happy? People don't ask you, like, you know, whatever it may be, like, just general shit. And so,
my brain is just spewing out information, all that random, but yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's kind of like what I would consider external or noise, or just kind of, it's like these, you know, the short-term temporary things, like weight, like your relativity to the ground effectively is what controls people's mood. You know, if someone weighs themselves 2 mornings in a row, they've gone up, they're having an absolute meltdown. But like your weight's going to change throughout your life, you know, you're not going to be the same weight, you're not, you know, and same with like your salary, your car, your current situation, you know, you might have the best life in the world or look like it and think something could upend your world at any point, but it's kind of having the basics in place so that if something external gets upended, you weren't relying on that anyway. The foundations, the basics are there, you're happy out, you know, kind of, I know myself, if I have a bad day at work, I know when I come to the gym, that's going to reset me. 100% it's going to put me in a better form. You know, I know that if, you know, after having a crazy week, I know getting out for a walk in the woods at the weekend is just going to reset my mind and just give me that little bit of breathing space. So I know that those things are always there, you know, they're always there, and I know that they will just ground me a little bit more. But I think when people, you know, really rely on their salary, or rely on, you know, that the first thing they tell you, like, tell me a bit about yourself, oh, I work for this company and I kind of, you know, I drive this car and I make this money, and when they depend on those, I think it's just so, you know, one little thing changes there could have been that whole thing and spin someone out of control, whereas
I think status is a really interesting one the more I think about it, because you see it in kind of movement culture and all that sort of stuff. It's like, how many of you actually need to do a one-arm chin or a handstand or whatever it is? And so it's like, okay, well, why are you doing it? And they're literally doing it for the same things we're talking about: physical, social, emotional needs. They're doing it for status, and people work their jobs for status and all that sort of stuff. And so the thing I think I've realised over the last few years is, like, my status, like, I try to have a very non-hierarchical way about the studio itself and with my circle of friends, meaning that I do not want to be, I mean, I know I'm not, but I don't want to ever feel like I'm trying to be higher than anybody or better than anybody. I say it about here in the podcast, one of the themes is this is like, I know for a fact that every single person I meet is not just my superior in one way, they're my superior in many ways, dozens of ways. There's so much I can learn. It's why we're here talking. And so in that, I'm placing myself not in that status is important to me. I obviously could give two fucks. I'm not in the fitness industry where we do our own thing, like, so I don't care about my status among my peers as such. I think it's nice to be respected as a coach and be willing to do your own thing, but again, it's still irrelevant. The people in here matter. And if I put a post on Instagram, I don't care about the universe that sees it or the world that sees it. I care about the 50 local people, you know. So I think status, so I think status is a really interesting one, and I think if people could break down that and actually realise that the tribe is what helps you survive. So, like, you don't have to be the lion, you know, getting the lion's share of the thing. Actually, I'd rather just eat with my friends and live with my friends and be around my friends and my family and stuff like. And so I think that's where people, and then I think just that major, like, focus on ourselves, that's when we start suffering. And which is kind of two sides to that, like, because we need to focus on ourselves to grow. So like
the
you know,
self-centered thing we mentioned
yeah,
earlier. You know,
exactly.
like,
So the negative side of
in a
that,
healthy aspect where you are focused on, okay, well, what do I want from me?
Yeah.
What do I expect from me? You know, you talk about your goals, but why? It's like the 5 whys. They say like, oh, I want to lose weight, but why do you want to lose weight? Because you know, I want to feel better. Well, why do you want to feel better? You know, and then you start to get to the root of the actual problem. You ask yourself the 5 whys, and you come back. You'll probably come down to the fact. Well, I did at the time. Well, last year, to be like, okay, well, I had really low self-esteem because the relationship didn't work out, and I put it all on myself. I was like, you know, there's something wrong with me. You know, and you know that's a very, very hard thing to admit when you know when you're. I guess when you, I could self-assess myself every so often now. You know, if something's not working out, I'm right, okay, let's go back to what am I expecting to happen and what am I doing to make that happen? Are my decisions mapping toward that goal, or am I sabotaging myself? And then you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be like, yeah, you are sabotaging yourself. You know, if I want to eat better and I'm hoofing down chocolate in the office, that's obviously, you know, I'm not following my path, and I'm eventually going to be like, I'm going to feel disappointed with myself, and you know, you just have to, I think, hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
I
think
for those types of things.
Yeah, finding that anchor though is hard for a lot of people, I think, as well. So you know, people struggle to find like what is your purpose, and not in a big kind of way, but like, you know, what is driving you day to day is like, well, if I'm to get in shape or do whatever, what's the driver? Yeah. And is it a healthy driver, or is it so that I can influence my kids to make better choices, or whatever it may be.
But it's even again where maybe again this is where fitness comes in as a metaphor, and again where I would hope that maybe I could help somebody in terms of like that, you know, through fitness. Again, you know, they might be a little bit lost, kind of like the way I was, again, coming in here. You know, I didn't really know why I was doing fit, like why I was loving being stronger, like, but maybe just to open somebody's eyes to that, you know, maybe they aren't being honest with themselves. Maybe they genuinely just don't know what you don't know, you don't know. So it's kind of like just slowly unveiling that for them so that they get to realise for themselves. Because, you know, a lot of people as well wouldn't probably, you know, a lot of people don't like criticism, which, you know, is fair enough. But then you have to critique yourself, then you have to be honest with yourself and be like, okay, this is where my problem is and this is where I need to fix it. But, you know, a lot of people aren't, I think, aware of that. You know what I mean? They're not aware that they can do that. They're constantly just looking, oh God, what would someone else think of that? I'm going to do that because the way people are looking at them. Or, you know, it's so quicker to do that than to actually just internalise and just be like, what am I doing wrong here? Yeah. You know, but again, put that back to being surrounded in an environment of noise, and, you know, you're going to just get pulled into the waves a little bit.
It's going to be really interesting to see what you do, like when you have your space and you're a coach and all that sort of stuff. Cool. Yeah. And kind of endless possibilities. Happy at the moment? Yeah. You were saying, we were chatting before camera, you were saying like this is essentially like the happiest period of your life.
Yeah.
I had a lovely podcast with Naomi, the first one. If you haven't listened to that, go and listen to it. She basically said, when we talked about the happiness thing, she was like, it wasn't necessarily that the happiest times were the easiest times. She summed it up as being all of the feelings all of the time, in terms of like, it's always going to be a roller coaster. But I think once we have a bit of direction and we're feeling like, oh my God, I'm stepping into my space, like, you know, it's you know, you don't mind what challenges come up and your oh shit moments, and like, oh my God, I'm literally about to leave what I identify as being what I make my living doing into doing something that I don't know if it's going to work or not. But essentially that's what makes us thrive, I think, and that's what does make us happy as well. So what's making you happy at the moment? Like, what's...
I think it's just that I feel like I'm making such a good decision. You know, like I feel like this whole transition period I've really doubled down on, again, like you're going straight back to basics. What makes me happy? What's not making me happy? Or what's stressing me out? Eliminating the stress and focusing on the stuff that makes me happy. So it's kind of like really, again, and that, you know, you have to keep going back to that, because you know, it depends on the day, you know, the day you've had, case by case, you know. Obviously the same things will keep coming up that are really, really vital for your happiness. So I mean, like, we've probably had this conversation for so many months, you know, where I'm like, oh God, I don't think the office job is for me anymore, you know, I feel like a cage animal. And I'm like, oh, I just want to get out and do fitness or whatever, you know, it's been kind of just spun around. But now that I've actually made the decision, you know, it's always kind of, I don't know, like I quite like making these crazy decisions because again, like I've had to do this for traveling, and it's even a little bit crazy when you think about like you quit your job to go move to a brand new country where you don't know anybody, and you really have to start from scratch, you know. So, and you have to survive, you know, you've got nothing else. So it's like, I don't know, like as much as it's still like a little bit unnerving, but again, those, when I think back, like those are the best times of my life, you know, like they were crazy and all over the place, and at the time I'm like, oh, I'd love like a solid job or a solid salary, but nah, when I think back, looking at it as a bigger picture, you know, it's like that, it's the not knowing, the uncertainty, the discomfort of it all actually was the best crack. Like it was the best crack, and again, what came out on the other side was a better me every time. And then like that, when you get to a point, you're like, oh my god, I've really done something here. And then 12 months later, you're like, ha, like that's gas. I thought I was great there, and now I've moved on another point. So I think having done that so many times now, I'm like just excited to see what happens next year. But it's just feeling good about the decision, you know, feeling good that, you know, the thing is, like, you don't know what's going to happen. I think you have to, you know, what you put in, you'll get out. And I'm very confident that, you know, they kind of say, I guess, about starting your own business is, you know, do something you'd have to be willing to do it for free. You know what I mean? If you're enjoying it and you do it for free, then why not would you go into it and then possibly, you know, make it into a career? So yeah, I don't know, like this is the stuff that makes me really happy. You know, I love, like, over the past year, again, this is the one thing in my life that I've proper stuck to. Yeah. Why? Obviously because I enjoy it. It makes me feel at home. It relaxes me. It's, you know, it's that's what it is essentially. You know, why do I keep turning up? Okay. Why have I done that for a year? Why have I progressed so much in 12 months? You know, I have to, like, again, I'm an overthinker, so I overthink that down to the point of like, well, this is not my niche, but this is obviously where I really thrive physically, mentally, you know. So why wouldn't I do it on a full-time basis? You know, why would I turn up to the job? You know, pay for the car to get to the job.
Fucking cars.
To pay to, you know what I mean? And then I'm just waiting to get out. It just doesn't make any sense. Again, it's like you're talking about the 48 weeks of the year, working 48 weeks of your year, doing something you don't enjoy for 4 weeks of what you do enjoy. That doesn't measure up at all. Like, you know, you get 70 years of age, you look back at that, you're like, what? That was not worth the investment. Yeah,
one of the lined up questions is like, do you see yourself doing this at age 50? But I don't think that's relevant for you. I think it's more apt to ask you, do you see yourself still making these decisions? So again, who knows if you've been in fitness in there or whatever it may be, but do you think you're going to be the same person at age 50, whether you have kids or not? And you're like, kids, we're going to Asia, let's go. What? Like, do you think you'll still carry that sense of like, because that's where the living is, you've just identified it as being what makes you happy. How do you think the next 20 years looks?
I reckon so. Like, I mean, because I've been that spontaneous without knowing I've been that spontaneous. No, it's not like I was like, oh, I'm going to be spontaneous. I mean, like, I've been like, oh, I'd like to go to New Zealand. Yeah, I'll give it a go. And then it turns out, like, people are like, you're mental. Like, you just keep making these decisions. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. And then it's kind of feedback. And then I realised, like, obviously after so many years, when you look back at it, like, I've literally jumped around. When you see my CV, even, like, I've done different jobs, different industries. Like, I've done HR, hospo, I've worked in medical. And people are like, oh, what did you study in college? Like, I quit college. I did 3 months of computing, which has nothing to do with any of those. Yeah. You know, it's kind of, I kind of do thrive off, obviously, the panic mode. You know, I know that I go into panic in certain situations, and obviously I get some sort of thrill out because I know quite well. It's like this. If you make it work, you just make it work. You know what I mean? But if you enjoy it, I think it doesn't feel like work then. You know, and then you come out the other side and you're like, oh my god, I just did that. I go, what?
This is a nice way of saying it. It's probably not relevant, but it's my experience anyway of that. Like, you might find that when because I think we're all looking for center. Like, or to be centered again or whatever, when you find center. So for me, like, you know, we do have those like self-sabotage and things in relationships and all the wrong things for us, but when you find the person for you or the place for you, you're like, I have an anchor, I have home, I have, you know, not safety in terms of like, you know, but you have your own comfort or whatever. So yeah, things might evolve to where you feel like, okay, this might feel like home at the moment, but you'll have your own home at some stage where you're the person who looks after the people and does all the things and all that. So yeah, maybe by age 50 it is actually that you have your roots and you're like, actually, yeah.
that's it. Like, I
Who
mean, I'm
knows?
happy with the fact that, like, you know, I know my mum would laugh about it years ago saying, you can't stick to anything, you know. But I, you know, I'm quite comfortable with the fact now and knowing, and I think again, it's becoming comfortable with who you are, because, you know, maybe I thought about that for years and I'm like, I keep jumping around, I need to settle down. And then I'd get into this settled position and then I'm just like, what is this? Like, this is, I don't like this. I don't like this settled position. What is this? You know, I want to go traveling. You know, and then I go traveling and then it's kind of like, oh no, you're being that spontaneous thing again. You're not sticking to anything. And then it's kind of just like, then that's where you're like, what do I want to do? Why am I thinking about what other people are thinking, whether I'm spontaneous or settled or what? You know what I mean? I think in the last year then I've become very comfortable with the idea, like I've said it to plenty of people as well, that maybe, you know, I, as a person, you know, my friends, you know, marriages and houses and kids and all, I don't see that in my future. Now that could change because I am so spontaneous. But at the moment, that's just not my focus. You know, I kind of just want to focus on me, self-centered. But I just know, I just want to, like, I really want to nail down the basics, because I mean, I think I'm still learning so much about myself that, for example, bringing a kid into the world, I don't even know where to start with that, because I still probably feel like I haven't figured myself out. I'm still a kid. I'm still running around like a head case. But you know, it's been comfortable with that, because, you know, you often get the questions asked as well, like, oh, what do you mean you don't want kids, you don't want a house? Like, I turn around to people and say, I don't want a mortgage. You know, I don't see myself in that situation where I'd like to, you know, maybe sign myself over 30 years for a house. I know, like, I think people with kids, yeah, absolutely, you want something to hand down, but that's just not my thing. You're like, I would thrive off the fact of living in different places every so often and moving around, meeting new people. This is what this year has shown me. Like, I love meeting new people. I know, and loads of people like house, settled, job, salary, and that's what their thing is. That's what makes them feel grounded. That's fine. And it seems to be like, you know, maybe there might be some people caught up thinking that that's just expected of them. You know, I might just fall into that, whereas I've become way more, I think that's where I struggled, because I kind of fell into the environment of, oh, well, maybe I should be settled down, maybe I should be with somebody. You know, I'm, you know, 30 now, but like coming up to 28, 29, I was like, oh, I don't know, you know, and maybe I should be in a relationship, maybe I should be looking at like that kind of. But when I thought about it, like, that's not what I want. You know, that's what society sets up, but not what I want. And I think becoming comfortable with that is a huge thing. Being comfortable with the conversations, because I've had it in work where I'd be like, oh no, I don't really want mortgage or kids, or I kind of like, I really enjoy my fitness and my travel, and that's what I'm looking into. And they'd be like, what do you mean? So it's like, it's nearly a shock factor. It's crazy, but I think it's just becoming comfortable in who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it. And again, it's going back to the basics of, why you're doing what you're doing, and making sure you're doing it for you, and not for anything outside of that. You know,
Brilliant.
but I think it's fine, and that is the fun part.
Yeah, I love people who make the world feel like a small place. So even using David as an example, he just travels. Like, it's like Clondalk and Dublin, those are like, you know, that's my home and that's what I identify with. But then, like, to expand on that is like, actually, if I landed in Israel tomorrow, I'd be like, cool, right, here we go. Like, it's quite cool. Why would you limit yourself? I think the world is such a small place with the internet. It's with so much awareness more now than we ever did. You know, back then we would have to listen to hip hop music to understand what was going on in New York. But you know what I mean? Just to reference the music that was on earlier. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think that's when the magic happens anyway, when you let go of stuff and then you're like, next bombshell hits, you're like, wow, I did not see that coming, because you know expectations and you weren't forcing things, you weren't living for anybody else's expectations.
Exactly, you kind of just kind of release and you know, figure it out as you go, as opposed to holding on to things.
Yeah.
You know.
Sweet. Yeah. So, last couple of questions. Hope it's still recording. Yeah, you've given us plenty of nuggets so far that I haven't to ask directly, which is awesome. I would like to know if there was any one thing you could share with people, or something you could give to each person you met, or any bit of advice, or just any one thing. If you met anybody in the street from age 7 to 77, just randomly, if someone walked in here now and you were to give them some form of advice or a book or something, what would it be? No pressure. Something you've learned or something you feel has been beneficial to you.
I don't know. Well, it's kind of just, without being cliche again, it's just going back to, you know, what do you want? Like, I mean, we talked about like it's good to not have expectations and you know, but like what would you expect from yourself? You know, what do you expect from yourself? Who are you and what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Like asking those questions to yourself honestly, you know what I mean? Because I think that's just the most important thing. Because again, I just think so many people get caught up in what they think they should be doing, or they don't do what they should be doing because they're worried about what people would think. You know, I'm still going through that myself because I know like becoming a coach is going to involve, you know, making videos and things like that. Like even things like this is like I don't really do this. You know, I don't record myself talking or anything like that, and that's going to push me out my comfort zone. But I'm getting excited about that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I know this is going to be like, there's going to be so many funny outtakes first. You know, but yeah, so bringing it back to like, what makes you tick? You know, are you, like, what do you want to do in the next month? What would you like to do in the next month, next year? And like that, what are you doing every day towards that?
Cool.
Just making sure that, you know, hold yourself accountable and don't, you know what I mean? Just absolutely 100% hold yourself accountable. Because again, I just got lost in like, I was kind of doing, you know, I was turning up to the gym and I knew I liked it. You know, I knew by the feel of it, I was doing a good thing, but I didn't map out goals and I didn't, not that everyone needs to map out a goal, but I just, you know, you just kind of have to have some sort of guideline, some structure. So you know you're on the right track. So I think that's just very important to just focus on your happiness, like, you know, because again, I know people have families and other things to worry about, but again, like, you know, you can't pour from an empty vessel. Like, you have to be, you know, you have to be good to others. So that way, you know, there's no point, again, like they say, the oxygen mask in the plane. You know, you're no good if you end up passing out and your kid is in the seat next to you. You know, put your mask on first, then help them.
Yeah.
Effectively, again, going back to being self-centered, but, you know, to a point of, you know, really, really, you need to just do what you want to do, even if it's going to cause everybody to be like, what the hell, you're mental. I think I've come full circle in terms of I love that reaction now. Whereas a lot of people would be afraid of that reaction, do you know what I mean? A lot of people would be like, oh God, I'm not going to do that because like, that's mental.
Cool.
And, you know, I'd hate to think that anybody was avoiding what they'd really love to do just because of something like that, you know? Brilliant. But yeah, so it'd be just like, focus on you.
Nice.
Figure it out.
Cool. I think from the conversation we've had, that's kind of what emanates about you, and that's the story you're going to be able to tell people, which is going to make you a very valuable person in people's lives and going to make you a great coach. So,
hopefully
cool.
it goes properly in this all the time.
Is there anything you'd like to add, lastly, at all?
No, I think we've covered everything, but I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool. Yo.
Hug it out.
Cheers, my dear. Microphone squidge.
Squidge.
Nice one.
Very nice.